Okay, so today, law of cosine. So the key, you guys listening? The big key is this. If you know side, angle, side. So there's no opposites. There's not a pair of opposites. In fact, if you look at example 1, you're watching, there's no opposites. It'd be nice if we had opposites, we would use what we did on Friday, the law of sines, right? But there are no opposites. But what I do have, I know side, angle, side. If I know that, then I can find the opposite side using the law of cosine. So let's set it up. Adjacent 1, adjacent 2, or like Jackson said, it doesn't matter. No. Adjacent 1, adjacent 2 does not matter at all. So right for that, we're going to go x squared, because that's my opposite side, is equal to 12 squared plus 10 squared minus 2 times 12 times 10 times the cosine of 58 degrees, okay? Put in my calculator just like that. I can go 12 squared plus 10 squared minus 2 times 12 times 10 times the cosine, right? Cosine of 58, okay? I get an answer. But that's x squared. So I have x squared equals about 116.8, but it's x squared. So I take the square root of that, right? Take the square root of it, square root of the answer, and I get an answer about 10.8. Okay, it's not hard. It's not hard. You just have to use a calculator to type all the numbers in, okay? Yeah. Thumbs up? Yes. Okay, good. Super easy, right? Okay, now. Example 2. Now, example 2 says solve the triangle, which means we're going to have to find all the angles and all the sides. We can do that. So first of all we know is side, angle, side. We don't know a pair of opposites, so we have to use the law of cosines. We have side, angle, side. So we're going to have to go ahead and use the law of cosines. So let's set it up. This is little f, angle f, little f. So let's find little f first, right? So we're going to set it up as little f squared equals 7 squared plus 8 squared minus 2 times 7 times 8 times the cosine of 63. Okay, I'll let you take a look at what I put down. I have the form that says opposite squared equals. It says adjacent squared plus 2 times adjacent times the cosine angle. Okay, got that set up. I'm going to put that in my calculator. I'm going to get an answer. Okay, so I'm going to do that right now. Get that in my calculator clear. I'm going to go 7 squared plus 8 squared. 8 squared. 2 times 7 times 8 times the cosine of 63. I got about 62, but that's f squared, right? And then I'm going to take the square root of that. I'll give it back to you later. That's fine. It's whatever. Take your phone. Fine. It's all good, though. You're still a good guy. I think it is a 1.5. I got a little distracted. It's all good, though. And so I'm going to take the square root of that and about 7.88. So little f is about 7.88, okay? There's a little f. Okay, now, what we can do is we have a pair of opposites. Once you have your opposites, the law of sines is actually easier. It is easier. It's what we learned on Friday and Thursday. But once you have your pair of opposites, then you can use your law of sines. So now let's see if we can either find angle A or angle T. It does not matter. AB, what do you want? Angle A or angle T? T it is. So we'll go opposites, right? See my opposites? My opposites. So we're going to go sine of T over 7 equals the sine of 63 over 7.88. So if I use the law of sines, it's about opposites, right? The law of sine, just set up your opposites. Sine of T over its opposite. Sine of 63 over its opposite. So I'll multiply the 7 up here. So I'll have sine of T equals 7 times the sine of 63 divided by 7.88, right? Okay, right? And then I'm just going to use my calculator. All right, so clear. I'm going to go 7 sine 63, close my parentheses, divided by 7.88, and I get a decimal, but I need to find the angle, so I'm going to push which button? I get a decimal. I'm going to push my inverse, sine inverse of my answer. about a 52.3 degree angle. So angle T is going to be about 52.3 degrees. Okay, great. How about angle A? How about angle A? How am I going to get angle A? Okay, Aaron says let's add them up and subtract from 180. You guys agree with that? And, okay, we're going to 180 minus parentheses, 63 plus my 52.3. And I get an answer about 64.7. All right? Okay? So if you have the opposites, the law of sines will work. With one exception, we were talking about this. The law of sines will never give you an obtuse angle. So if you ever want, it just won't. And we're going to learn that in pre-calc, okay? But the law of cosines will. So if you ever want to find an obtuse angle, you need to use the law of cosines. Yes, Austin?
Can you get a acute angle out of the law of cosines?
Yes. Yeah. Law of cosines is the best. Except for you have to have the right information, right? Okay, turn the page. Okay. Now, all right, law of cosines. Now, in this example, you guys see this example? You have side, 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 right? You don't know an angle, so we can use the law of cosines to find an angle. So, if you have side, 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 you can find an opposite angle, okay? So, you ready? Let's take a look at this. If we want to find theta, 10 and 17 are my adjacents, right? If I'm talking about that angle, adjacent, adjacent, right? Adjacent, adjacent. That makes my 18 the opposite, okay? So I'm going to set it up. I'm just going to use the formula exactly the way it says. I'm going to go cosine theta equals parentheses 10 squared plus 17 squared minus 18 squared parentheses divided by parentheses 2 times 10 times 17, okay? All right, so I'm just setting things up in the formula. Adjacent squared plus adjacent squared minus the opposite squared divided by 2 times the adjacent times the adjacent. Now you have to have parentheses with your calculator. It's very important because you will mess up bad if you don't have your parentheses. So I'm going to go to my calculator. I'm going to go parentheses 10 squared plus 17 squared minus 18 squared, right? Parentheses divided by parentheses 2 times 10 times 17. I get a grand answer of 0.98, but that's not my angle. It's not my angle.
Inverse what?
I got to inverse it, right? Yes, I have to inverse it because if I need an angle, I push the inverse button. So I'm going to go cosine inverse of that answer, and I get about 79 degrees. I'll round it about 79. So theta is about 79 degrees. Okay. Am I doing okay? Okay, doing okay? Let me put 79 up here then. There you go. Last problem. Now it says solve the triangle. So if we have to solve the triangle, we've got to find an angle first. I gave you a hint. Which angle should I find first? I gave you a hint.
D.
I should find D. Because the law of cosines will be able to get D. With the law of sines, if you use the law of sines, you'll just have to subtract from 180. Because remember that double triangle? That's all you'd have to do. But let's make it easy. Let's use the law of cosines. Let's find angle D. So here we go. If I use angle D, then that's my adjacent. That's my adjacent. That's my opposite, right? So we'll set up cosine of D, right? Parentheses, adjacent squared, 6 squared, plus adjacent squared, 8 squared, minus the opposite squared, which is minus 12 squared, divided by parentheses 2 times 6 times 8, okay? Let's find out what it is. Okay. All right, parentheses 6 squared plus 8 squared minus 12 squared, parentheses divided by parentheses 2 times 6 times 8 parentheses, and I get a decimal, right? Now this time I got a negative decimal, but believe it or not, the calculator knows exactly what it's doing, okay? So I'm going to do the cosine inverse of that, right? And I get a 117.3 degrees. It's obtuse, but the law of cosines will get you obtuse angles, okay? So it's about 117.3 degrees. Okay, now you have a choice. You have angle I or angle D, doesn't matter, okay? AB, which one you want? I or D, I don't care. I or G? G it is. So now, You could use the law of cosines again, or you could use your opposites. The opposites are easier. You guys agree with that? The opposites are easy. So if I go G and 8, I can use the law of sines. If you have your opposites, I can use my law of sines. So I go sine of G over 8 equals the sine of 117.3 over 12. I can just set up my opposites, right? Once you get your opposites, the law of sines are much easier to use, okay? Multiply up the 8 right there and use my calculator. All right, 8 sine 117.3 divided by 12. I get a decimal. Sine inverse that. Answer, I get about 36.3. Angle G is about 36.3. Okay. And then, what am I going to do? I've got 36.3 here. Then what?
Wait, did you do a inverse for that?
I did. See it? It's right there. I did. Yeah. I have to, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm looking for the angle. What about angle I? What about angle I? Yeah, add them up, subtract from 180. I totally agree. I go angle I just be 180 minus parentheses. Let's see, that's 117.3 plus my 36.3, right? Anybody get that answer yet?
23.7.
What'd you get, 23.7?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, now, finally the area. So the area. Now, you guys have forgotten this one, but I'll give you the area formula is this. But you can't do that because we don't really know the height of the triangle. But I gave you one. 1/2 adjacent times adjacent times the sine of the angle. That's the area formula I gave you. Now, it doesn't really matter. I don't care what angle you use. I don't care. Anna, pick an angle. Do you like D, G, or I? It doesn't matter. It is angle I. So if you're going to use I, then these two are the adjacent sides. You guys agree? Right? Does that make sense? It might be easier to pick D just because we already got adjacent, right? Avery, go ahead. You're going to ask a question.
How can I equal 23.7?
I don't know. I just took his word for it, but I could check. It makes sense. Well, let me go ahead and do it, okay?
0.3 and 0.3 is 0.6, and it's a 0.7, and it won't equal a whole number. Right?
How about 26.4? Sorry.
Okay.
It's okay. How about 26.4? Thanks for checking, though. You do think, don't you? I like it. Yeah. You know the cool thing about you guys? You might be slackers today, but the really good news is you're smart. You know the great part about that? You get to take your smarts with you, right? And then along the way you get a work ethic and you rock it, right? You're a smart kid. Yep. Yes. For angle G? I don't know, 8 times the sine of 117.3 divided by 12. Sine inverse of that answer. I got 36.3 still. Okay, now, let's finish this one up. So, area is equal to 1/2 adjacent, which is 8 times adjacent, which is 12, times the sine of 26.4. Thanks for fixing that angle, Avi, because we're going to get a better answer. We got about 21.3 as an area, and that's in terms of centimeters squared. Okay. Now, let me stop the recording.